Yeah, you good? All right. Plug in. There we go. Put that up here. So password KW all lowercase. Your laptop. All right. Doing awesome. Okay. Okay. Yes. I'm excited about this conversation. This is one of my favorite models. Running a real estate business, I would say. And so this was that's a conversation. I know it's 0 for 6 or 7 years now. So I'm really good at this model, and I'm saying that, and I'm really good at learning more about it. I think we'll all learn to really get stuff because what's going on? They're going to that podcast. That's one I was really calling about was when you're in the moment, right? You're kind of yourself, the way you're this is the reflection, sorry. It goes up, goes down. And the leverage actually would go down for everybody to go back again. What we were talking about was make sure that are managing your business for 3 years and not going into like survival mode first, right? Because there is a long game that you're playing as well, right? So of course, short term, but don't throw your whole business because you're in temporary gain. So this is a model that I think some of you learned today to help, kind of create a market about what it is. So to start, what I like to learn is maybe the 30,000 foot view. And before that, I can give it give them tilewebinar.com. That's another one for it. That's the tilewebinar.com. The password, and I'll go let them know. So I'll get this back out to the question. You don't want. Of your business, what's kind of your focus? And then we're gonna get into like how to get going in real estate business. Yeah, so since 2016, my business has been focused on 1,234 homes. 1900. Now, we didn't want to go over the entire DC metro area, but the and all that as well. My focus has been a very small market to become known. I believe if you're not known for something, you're not getting known, right? So I really kind of get more getting. So the question, I am a listing focus, one of 5 agents, 3 myself included. And so we do somewhere around 60 to 80 transactions a year. Most people. Okay.
Peter, but man, just getting you, man. Reynolds and, my neighborhood. Um, the rooms, to find ways to help people. Great questions. And my wife. Bigger than I'm. Uh, Nice. Nice.
I say half said that, but we're at this zero forming this idea. So when we started the business, we got into it.
Well, for 9 years, we'll have. Thought about really speaking to Bob, my kids used to play young, just basketball, football, and then the weekend. So I tried a couple of things. And sales for a while, and then for a year. And that was 2000. Year. And program. Talking off the leg and just kept it. 2008, I got fired from that. Mine from high school, for quite some time. And so, you know, I didn't want to be real. Network marketing kind of business that I thought was going to be kind of my freedom. I got in contact with it. He had a lot of things and his serving it, I need to know people that start working. This is kind of a temporary. Oh, lovely. All right, so let's talk about neighborhoods. Okay. So farming, for those that are newer, right? What define it? So how would you define it? What does that mean? The geographic form you work on, and there's like a neighborhood or an area that is on the map and say, this is where. Right? There can also be niche farming sometimes, right? And that waterfront, right? So what we're Maggie, and they have a farm. They can speak to that. Sounds like those would be mostly geographical, right? Okay. So let's look at that. Why the neighborhood? It's two that you primarily do. Talk about how that came about. Yeah, it's kind of geographic farmer. He's a little bit of an older gentleman. He may have slowed down his business a bit at this point. But anyway, Rob Chavez, my business partner since 2009, got lunch with Andy Novins back in 2010, let's say. And he came back to the office. I was the transaction coordinator at the time, just whatever. The guy in the chair, like Superman was out, I was going to be in the chair, kind of making things happen. And he said in this conversation with Andy Novins that he's just focused on these 6 square blocks in Falls Church, and that's all he's kind of gone after for quite some time. And he said he can ride his bike to every one of his listing appointments, and he was making about $400-something thousand in GCI. Yep. And I'm like, what, that, I'm, at this point, I'm so destitute, it's not even funny, I can't pay attention, I'm so broke. And I'm like, ride your bike and make real money, like, it didn't even make sense to me. But that seed was planted in 2010. For the 5 years after that, I was running the buyer side business of the Kaza Group, but that wasn't gonna be my long-term play. And so in our expansion model, Rob was like, hey, you know, I was like, well, I gotta have my own opportunity. What can that kind of look like? I want my own P&L, run my own business, let's be partners. And I knew that, just going back to the Andy Novin's conversation, like, I was going to focus on my neighborhood. So that was one seed. The other piece of it was, I wanted to have friends. I'm a social guy. I wanted to have friends in my neighborhood. I moved into my neighborhood in 2013. And by 2015, I didn't really know, but maybe like 3 or 4 people. And I'm like, it's kind of stinks too. Like, I want to get to know in relationship with more people that are my neighbors and stuff like that. So those 2 things came together, and just doing a lot of KW training around the subject, it lined up with my personality.
So you heard the idea around farming, it's attractive to you.
Yep.
And then you ended up moving to a neighborhood and then said, this is gonna be the neighborhood I'm gonna farm because I live here.
Yeah.
Joe, how'd you pick Greenbrier? How'd that happen?
Well, I live there.
Okay.
Pretty simple.
How did you learn about farming? Like, why did that model become something that you were
So I
gonna go
went to-
all in on?
Doing some KW trainings and ran into Sarah.
Yep.
Reynolds and Kathy Stripmatter, who did a lot of those. And I was like, yeah, I like that idea. Yeah.
Okay.
So, because what I was doing was just kind of hit or miss, and it just wasn't coming together. So
Okay.
I said, you know what, I know this neighborhood, I got 2 kids here, I've been here a while. Let's just do this, let's do it. Now, some people don't like farming their own neighborhood, because now you gotta watch how you act, right? Can't be speeding down the road and making a bunch of noise. Of course, now I can do that, but, so yeah, so in a way, you know, kind of helps you grow up a little bit too, if you're, you know, a little bit crazy sometimes.
Sure.
So you gotta kind of watch your P's and Q's, and so.
So like, let's unpack that a little
So
bit
it was
though.
twofold, it was good, you know?
What about specifically about farming was attractive? Right, like were there specific things, same thing as Matt, where like, I want to get to know my neighbors better, or is it more proximity? Because I remember when I was an agent, you know, I've got the whiteboard here, so I'll use it real quick. I came back one time and one of my mentors told me like, "Kyle, you're a star real estate agent." I was like, "Thank you." And he said, "No, you're driving from here to here to here to here." And like, you're not doing any business,
Right.
like going back to your point a second.
Right.
And so, you know, I think there's this misconception sometimes that we have to cast this like wide net to have a big business.
Yeah.
And in reality, sometimes going laser focused, getting really good at something can be the key to success, right?
It's really the fear of what am I gonna lose out on if I declare what I'm going after?
Sure.
Are all of my friends gonna think, oh, well, if I don't live in that neighborhood, or if I don't live in Gainesville, or if I don't live in West Prince William County or Greenbrier, and that's not real.
Well, it does happen a little bit. People go, oh, well, I thought you only did Greenbrier. No, man, come on.
And you're 100% right, you hear that, but they still, when you say no, man, they're like, oh, good, because I wanted to work with
But
you.
mine is too late sometimes.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep.
But
So I get less of that. I get more, hey, I know you do a lot of Gainesville. Do you also work? Blah, blah, blah. Absolutely.
Sure.
Tell your friend.
Right.
But yeah, but it doesn't work that way, because even in a scenario where you do lose that one.
Yeah.
You got 3 or 4 others through the farm that, you know, like the net is always up.
I think that's a good lesson. I was talking to a luxury agent the other day, it's the same thing, right? They lost a deal that was $450,000, and when they talked to the person, like, oh, I thought you only did luxury. Right, so like in your marketing, when you're talking to people, you gotta be very careful of those things. You can lead with value propositions, right? But I think the best are always making sure people understand, like, I specialize in luxury, or I farm Greenbrier, and I work all in Northern Virginia, right? If I can help you, I wanna make sure that you get.
I added and beyond next to my Greenbrier.
And beyond, all right, so there's an actual, like,
Greenbrier and beyond.
yeah, an actual thing that you did. All right, so let's talk about how you got into the neighborhood. Like, can you think back to a little bit of, okay, I made this decision, I wanna farm this neighborhood, I picked this area. Now, both of you did it by default. One thing I would say is, if you're gonna say, either maybe I'm renting in an area and so I wanna go farm somewhere else. What are some key metrics that you'd be looking for? And does this make sense to pick this neighborhood from the very beginning?
Well, I learned the metrics a little bit when I first decided, like, should I do Greenbrier? Let me run the numbers on this. On a good year, we sell 100 houses in Greenbrier. It's a little over 1,900 houses.
Okay.
It's not a lot of turnover.
Right.
But being a guy that not selling very much,
That's like what, like 5%?
I was like, if I can get 15 of those,
Yep.
I'm making pretty good money.
Okay.
So that was my goal. I want to just try to get 15 a year.
Yep.
So
How many did you sell last year?
in Greenbrier,
Yep.
25.
Okay. All right. So is that still a similar number too? About 100 of them are selling, you're selling 25 to 30% of their house?
61 sold last year.
On the 61, then you sold 25. So think about that. Drive around a neighborhood, think about the brand awareness you have when every other sign basically is one person, right? And we're gonna talk about how you made that penetration, but you got anything else you want to add to that in terms of
That's such an amazing,
how you kind of penetrated that market or what that looked like when you started?
that's such an amazing statistic that like the percentage wise, that's such a.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
All right, so no, I, kind of, 5% turnover or more, not a dominant agent. I don't want to be going against somebody who's been like crushing that area, they're somebody who's got a lot of brand recognition. Like, I don't go against Joe and say Greenbrier, there's no point. Like, you spend your money when he's like got all the relationships. So not a dominant agent, 5+% turnover. I feel like there's one other metric that I look at. Also, I guess just kind of enough at bats, right? The 100, like if you make your market so small, you might be at 10%, but is that only 5 listings a year? So it's a combination of both total opportunities and a percentage of,
I've got a tactical tip for you, right? How do we know that conversion rate? Like, how do we figure that out? All right, so in the Bright MLS, I think most of us are in the Bright MLS, right? You have access to both sales information, but you also have access to public records. Public records search works very similar to the way that we search for real estate in terms of active listings. So you could, in essence, go to the public record search, do a map search, draw a circle around a certain area, and you're gonna come back with 1,900 records. Does that make sense? I mean, there's 1,900 tax records in that neighborhood. That's how many homes we have. Now you go to the other side, go do the search, go back and look last year, last 2 or 3 years, you can do some sort of average around that. You draw the same circle, how many things sold in that same circle. Now you've got an average, how many homes are selling per year versus a list now from the public records of how many homes total are in that neighborhood. Does that make sense?
Last step, switch the view to see who the listing agent is.
Yes.
Sort by agent and just kind of see if there's chunks of names or if it's like, it's just every.
Yep. So that's how you figure out, is there a dominant agent in that market? And if you didn't know this, in the header, when you do your search results, again, getting very technical here, sometimes it doesn't show you the listing agent. You click in the header of Bright, you can add any column of data that you want. Close date, concessions, whatever. So that main view you're looking at is just the default view. You can add in listing agent, close date, sort by that, start to kind of figure out what that may look like.
Yeah, that was another one.
Okay, let's stop there for just like any questions around kind of like picking your farm? Yeah.
Yeah, so like if you're sorting by agent, like what would be a number where you'd say, hey, there's a dominant agent that's good
I mean, so
percentage?
Joe's percentage is like one of the best in KW, in my opinion, in terms of percentage rate. Like I listen to a lot of agents.
Yeah.
That's really remarkable. I would say if you get more than about 5 to 7%, somebody is focusing on it right now. So this is a little bit overly tactical as well. So if I get 5+%, now I'm taking a look at that agent and that agent only and looking at where their listings have been and saying like, are they focused on this or did it just, they're actually everywhere, as an example, Sarah Reynolds has mentioned a couple of times. Sarah Reynolds does listings everywhere, but there's not, you don't see like a pocket of a specific thing.
But she used to be like Kirkpatrick Farms and.
Out there in the Ashburn, absolutely. So, so like it's first the percentage, then I'm kind of looking like, does this guy, can I see if this guy's focusing on this or not? And if not, then I'm good.
And then maybe the same thing, because I'm one of those people like, I want you guys to leave here and go be able to go do this strategy, not just hear about it, right? Now you can take that agent. So Joe has an MLS ID, right? I can go to the search, again, same thing, at the bottom of your search records, you can add different fields. They only give you a certain amount of them. One of them you can add is list agent. Now I put in that agent's list agent code, the last 5 years. Then you can look at a map of everything they've sold in the last 5 years, and I can see, hey, are they focusing on this area? Or did they just get lucky with a couple, that's a great way to go
My
make
soul
that
moment
decision.
and the neighbor said, hey, I want to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. Any other questions on picking the neighborhood? Sammer?
Do you have any ideas on whether or not it's worth farming a neighborhood if you don't actually live in it? Like, let's say you don't live in the neighborhood, but like you're kind of close to it, or your kid's school is in that neighborhood.
I didn't mention this as a metric, it was the one that I think I was forgetting, is I think you kind of have to love it. I mean, you have to kind of love that neighborhood. It's gonna come through in everything that you do. The stuff that Joe Stinkin does with his truck to go pick up trash, like,
We're gonna get there.
because he loves the stuff that I had a neighbor ask me like, hey, my basement is flooding. I'm like, cool, I'll be over there soon. I'm literally in there like wheel well, getting water out of there. But you gotta kind of love it. So it's much more likely that you're going to love a place where you live But I will help somebody say, if you know where you love and you're gonna like move there, like, okay, well, let's make that part of it. You could be renting in another spot, we're gonna farm this, but aren't you planning on being a member of that community, or are you just there to make your business work? Like, so there's a love component.
I personally see from agents, if you do it where you love and you set the model.
Right.
Now you can jump to another place. That make sense?
Right.
Right, but I'm with you. I mean, a lot of that is relationships, like, oh yeah, I do live right down the street.
I mean, if you're,
That engages somebody higher than someone just randomly driving around with a trailer picking up your stuff, right? We're gonna talk about this.
if you don't live there, you gotta be involved in it. You gotta be involved.
Yep, and it's easy things, right?
They
Like,
won't know you don't live there if you're that involved. To a degree.
yeah. Yep, and if you guys touched on this a second ago, but you decide to do farming, you can also shoot yourself in the foot if you don't do what you say you're going to do. Right, like there is that billboard that is, wow, Joe is crushing it, or Matt is crushing in his neighborhood, can quickly turn to like, man, that guy's not doing his job. Cause like, you know, sales prices falling, sitting there for a long time, it's not selling, it's not staged well. So all that time that you spent really building this farm, don't do what you say you're gonna do, it could also come back to hurt you in the long run, in that capacity too, right?
I mean, if you think about your real estate business in its entirety, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get famous with the people that we want to be famous with, right? I mean, like, we're trying to be the best known person within a group of people that we want to be known by. When you do it in the geographic area, I'm trying to get famous in this area, but that does shine a light on everything that you're doing, and all of a sudden you're like, you don't want to mess, you're not driving fast through the neighborhood because one mom on the Facebook page being like, that big truck is, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I gotta go put out fires across the neighborhood. So like,
Yeah.
it does make you be the
Now I got
best version.
everybody riding my ass in
Yeah.
the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I'm the slow
Because
guy.
you're the slow guy.
Yeah.
This guy is thing on the window. Yeah, John.
There's a question from Zoom,
Yes.
says, what are important questions to ask yourself before choosing a neighborhood?
Okay, anything there, maybe besides, I don't know when that came in, but anything besides the
Yeah.
metrics, the area, anything else we can double tap on?
Metrics, do you live there, do you love it? Price range?
Price range,
Yeah.
good one, yeah.
I'll go one, like, how long are you willing to commit to this thing? Right? A question to ask yourself is, am I gonna do this year, or am I doing this? I'm gonna put down this thinking flag, I'm gonna stay here, I'm gonna give here, I'm gonna love here, I'm gonna live here, I'm gonna work here, serve, etc. Because I don't know the geographic farming model where it starts working real fast and all of a sudden you're like, you don't have to care about, like, it's a long-term play, so you gotta kind of make that decision.
Right here on my postcard, I live here, I work here, I give back here, see around the neighborhood.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, all right, so let's go into that type of stuff now. All right, so you picked your neighborhood, you know where you want to be. How do I start attacking this thing? So maybe Joe, we'll start with you. I know you got your postcard there. What does your marketing plan look like? Like, how are you actually executing, trying to get as many appointments as you can out of this neighborhood?
Did you want me to talk about how I started
Yeah,
first?
let's talk about where it started, maybe where it's grown to.
When I started, go, okay, how am I gonna do this? So when we used to be able to do anybody's open houses, right? I started reaching out, especially to other KW agents that would get a listing in the neighborhood. Can I do the open house?
Okay.
Sure. So I started trying to do as many open houses as I could, because I'm just trying to meet the neighbors, and you know, all the neighbors wander into open house. Most people do open houses to pick up buyers. I'm doing it to pick up sellers. And then you start doing open houses and you got the same neighbors come in. They see you're open Sunday signs, they know you're working. So that was number one. Number two is I wanted to do the postcards, but I didn't have the budget for 1,900 homes yet. And I didn't know about EDPM and all that stuff yet. So I said, you know what? I'm just gonna get the main drags. So I got Point Pleasant, Poplar Tree, Majestic, Melville. That's a smaller number. I'll just start doing postcards. And the theory with that is, once you start doing postcards, as soon as you stop, you just wasted all that money. You gotta keep going.
All right,
And it can take
stop. Everybody hear that?
Yeah.
I get so many people who are like, I'm gonna do postcards for 2 months.
2 months.
Just save your money.
You better do it a year before you think.
When I moved to this area from Richmond, when I moved up here, I was living in Boston, which is a pretty busy area. I tell a story some of you guys have heard before. I remember one day, I had 17 postcards from real estate agents in my mail one day.
Yeah.
Guess what? They're all when they're recycling bin, right? There's nothing unique about that. And so like you guys, like you're saying, if you're gonna do a postcard strategy, we can even go deeper into that. It is not just, we're gonna do this for 3 months, let's try it. There has to be a commitment that this strategy is gonna be probably at a minimum 18 months, right? At a minimum, because if not, I do think you're kind of wasting your time and you'll just fall into everybody else that's just sending a marketing piece because they circle prospecting, not farming. They're just hitting it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Open houses,
open house.
Postcards in a smaller area.
Now I'm getting listings, so now I got to sign up in the yard.
what are you sending out the postcard about? What do the postcards say?
The first ones were, on one side was just a market update of what sold in the last 30 days.
Okay.
Before I had listings, I didn't really have anything to put on the front, so it was just like, hey, call me about the Greenbrier listing special or something like that. Then as I start getting listings, I'm just putting my new listings under contract, recently sold of my houses on the front, and then everything that has sold on the back.
All right, pause. I'm just gonna stop because I hear things, I want to put them out.
Yeah.
One of the big things you just said there, like Greenbrier listing special, blah, blah, blah. Think about whatever your neighborhood is called, like when you open your mail and I have 17 postcards, if it's, hi, I'm Kyle and I can help you sell, that's one thing. If it's, hey, Greenbrier neighbor, you're gonna take a double look at that, aren't you? And so just realize like putting in specifics into that marketing is gonna cause people to stop and actually read that further than they would anything else generic. Right?
And then
So
of course,
there's comps,
created the logo, which is again, something that going to training, talking in, logo. So after my first or second year, it was like, it's time to get a logo, right? I had got to go with Joe written on the bottom of my card when I first got cards.
Yep.
So normally when you're new, you're a buyer's agent, you're showing houses, you're laying your card down. Finally, I write an offer on one, we get the contract, that agent, listing agent takes it, staples it in their folder or whatever. I call them, they're answering the phone, got to go with Joe. I'm like, now, I know what to go with, so I went to a couple of companies, they gave me a couple ideas of the logo, I picked one. So that goes on my postcard, and for the longest time, I used to put, gotta go with Greenbrier Joe. Right, now it's just the Greenbrier team on the top, so yeah, we could add on to what they were saying.
Okay, cool.
So it just kind of happened by accident, but again, branding is, to me, very, very important, and it's gotta be. I see people that make logos and they all look the same, like a little picture of the house, a little picture of the house. You gotta get something where if somebody just glances over and looks at your sign, they see it.
Yeah, all right, I think you do a couple of unique things, I'm gonna come back to that.
Yeah.
Matt, same question. Kind of how did you start? What was what was that looking like when you were trying to like, all right, I wanna do this, I wanna set appointments now? How did you start communicating
Yeah, so I,
with those neighbors?
that question about like, wanting to do it long term was one that I thought I made, but I wanted to prove to myself that I did make it, right? Cause like I'm starting to put money into this and I know the same thing. You start the physical mail and you stop it. And so I was like, I need to go door knocking. If I will do the hardest thing in prospecting, at least in my mind, then I know I'm kind of committed. Then I'll feel better about putting money into something because I'm like, I've run a couple miles in the ugly shoes I have before I go buy new shoes. You know what I'm saying? And so my door knocking was, a script that I actually got a coach for like just this one thing. How can I get people? Well, one, what am I trying to accomplish in a door knock? Two, how can I create a script that's going to actually solicit that? The answer to question number one was, I'm actually trying to start relationships. Obviously, everything in terms of geographic farming is about having more and more relationships. And two, I'm trying to capture people's email addresses. Because if I can get voluntarily have them give me their email address, well, I now have permission for a much cheaper marketing tool that I can use through, Constant Contact or whatever it might be. And so I had to create a script that was like, what would I have to say
To get an email
for
address?
somebody to voluntarily give me their email address at their door? And so that was the coach's question, and we kind of came up and we built this whole thing, and I got to a place where I only door knocked during lead generation time. I was door knocking from Monday to Friday, 9:30 to about 12 o'clock. Right? That was kind of like my time.
Yep.
I didn't want, when you're doing things in geographic farming, like you do need to be different. I know all the Verizon people and the pest people come to my house and knock on my door when I'm at dinner. And I'm like, just stop, right? So I'm not gonna show up when everybody else shows up. I'm gonna come when it's nobody else is there, right? Oh, well, who's gonna open the door? Man, in Gainesville, where I live, like there's so many telecommuting people everywhere now. There's so many telecommuting people. So I came with it. I only knocked in the morning. I would go through about 40 doors in 2.5 hours. I'd have 17 conversations, and I would typically get about 8 to 9 emails. Those were like my pretty consistent numbers.
Yep.
And that was the first thing. That is like one of 5 pillars. We can kind of talk about some of the others. One of the 5 pillars. But that was the first one to kind of prove that I was willing to do it.
Awesome. Do you mind sharing the question?
Oh, yeah, actually, it's a two-part question.
Okay.
One is, hey, my name is Bob. Do this. This would be a little more fun if you don't mind.
Sure.
You're gonna get the door.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna knock it and we're gonna talk. Like, good.
Yeah.
Actually, the door knock is actually even specific. It's not, not gonna knock, knock. It's Dude, when you knock on 3,000 doors, 3,000 doors in like a year, you're like, you've got everything mapped out.
Yeah,
You guys are on door, no, yeah, like a ringtone, like Matt's here.
They answered it on 3 knocks, they didn't answer it on 2 knocks.
When I did all these other things, like, okay, that means something, right? So like, how can I just be like the neutral door knock? I actually figured out.
Good.
Knock, 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 knock.
Hey, good morning.
Oh, shoot. Hey, my name's Matt. I'm a neighbor. I live just on the other side of Rollins Ford Road. I just have 2 quick questions and I'll get out of your hair.
Sure, Matt.
I'm also a real estate agent. I focus specifically on our neighborhood. Question number 1 is this. I've got a buyer that I have been showing everything that's been coming on the market for the last 4 or 5 weeks. And I just haven't been able to find them exactly what they're looking for. Since I lived here, I told them I kind of go the extra mile and see if I could find anybody that was thinking about moving. Have you heard of any of your neighbors that might be thinking about like moving out of the neighborhood anytime soon?
I don't think I have, not yet.
Okay.
Yep.
If you do hear of anybody, if you wouldn't mind just call me, text me, I'm on Facebook, I'm really easy to find, whatever it might be. So I'd really love to help these clients become our new neighbors and so on and so forth. The second question I'll get out of your hand is this. For all the people like yourself, who are hopefully gonna live here for a while.
Yep.
I've come out with this kind of really cool once a month email. It's a nerded out report with everything that's kind of going on in the neighborhood.
Yep. But
But it's actually evolved into the way that I kind of give back to my community for just supporting me as a small business owner. I do a free movie event, a free photo session. I do a neighborhood mixer at a local brewery for free, and we even shred documents around tax time, just to kind of like serve the community and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd love to invite you to those events and, get you this once a month email. Would that be of any value to you?
Sure, that sounds good. That sounds good.
What's the best email address for you?
Blah, 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 blah.
That was the, I have a buyer script. The I have a listing script sounds exactly the same.
Yep, sure.
Except you're just saying, hey, I just listed this property now. This was 2006, 7, 8, where a house would sit on the market for more than a half a minute. So, I'd say, hey, I listed this property over there. It's been on the market for a little while. I told my clients I'd go the extra mile to see if I might be able to find any new neighbors.
And listen to all the key things he was saying in that script, right? Like there were lots of little one-liners that made me kind of put my guard down a little bit further, right? I'm going the extra mile. Like, I don't normally do this. I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm going the extra mile. That kind of makes the client take a half step back and go, "Man, it's pretty cool. This guy's going the half a mile." Like that's what's ingrained in my brain when I think that.
And the secret was my coach. I didn't come up with all of this, right? I paid somebody $2,500 to teach me how to think and create as something that would work, right? And then we refined it and took weeks and weeks, but
You're not putting the pressure on them because you're asking if they know
do
anybody.
you know?
now.
Literally, I'm turning my
And then they
back.
might go, well, I was thinking about it.
Right.
Yeah, oh, you? Oh,
Right. So you put the pressure on me to say I'm moving. It's asking
Right,
other people.
Right.
I do find sometimes when you do that, sometimes you find like the canary of the neighborhood
Oh,
who does know everything.
Oh, yeah.
And then will tell you everything. Rich may have had that experience before, right?
Well,
So they'll stand there and say, that couple's getting a divorce, right? Well, that couple's like, both those houses. Like that's, sometimes you find that person.
guess who they think the canary is now? My neighborhood.
I think it's you.
If anything's going on, they want to talk to them. Hey, you know what's going on?
When you do a knock
Yes, sir.
and they don't open the first time, you try to knock again second time.
That's a
or
really
third
good
time.
question. Yeah, it's trust me.
Kick the door.
Yeah, good question.
So, I knocked first.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm backing up. I ring the doorbell first, and the reason why is because that the most likely, excuse me. I ring the doorbell first because I felt like it was strange to knock and then ring, like almost kind of like a little bit disrespectful, so to speak, like I'm still here, like. But if you ring, that could be the Amazon guy, that could be somebody just dropping off a package. Oh, they didn't come out. Well, now, hey, it's a real person. I'm knocking, like, this is a human contact. So I actually ring first and I make sure, another thing, as silly as it sounds, when I ring the doorbell, I ring it and I kind of put my ear like a little close to make sure it actually ringed inside. Because sometimes it won't ring and I'm like, I'll just knock right. So like little stuff like that, you'll get ring first and then knock second.
So basically, if you don't have a camera, then you knock 2 times, right?
No, I'll still do the door, like, I'm trying to cover territory and people are probably not home too. Like, this is not 10:15 on a Tuesday morning. So I'll ring the doorbell, knock, move on, right? Keep going.
Do you keep track of the ones who didn't answer and then go back to them another day?
I keep track of everything. I have an app on my phone called Sales Rabbit. It's not great. I don't necessarily endorse it, but it's the best I found. That helps me keep track of all of that stuff. So yeah, I know who answered last time, what our conversation was about, how, all that kinds of stuff. Because I'm coming back. I'm door knocking every house, twice a year. So 1,200 homes in the spring and 1,200 homes in the fall. Keith, what's up, buddy?
Even though you're tracking it, do you leave anything at the door if they don't answer?
I don't, because like not knocking on doors in the evenings, I don't wanna be like everybody else that does kind of do that. I'm trying to disassociate myself with like the door knock. I'm going the extra mile this one time, right? I'm not trying to. I was here again, I was here again, I was here again. No, that's my sister, right? What up, man? She's not an agent at all. She's an attorney.
Let me hit that real fast. Like, I've had a couple situations as a broker, okay, where someone's gone out there and they just like. When at least they're dropping something off, just like stick a flyer loosely in somewhere, all right? And then a storm comes around,
Oh, my
whatever it is, right? And now they're all over the neighborhood, right? Like in the road and in people's front lawns, realize that can backfire in too. Right? So if you're gonna do it, you just gotta be smart about like, what does that marketing piece look like? Is it attack? And the other thing too, and I've had this call as a broker. I've been on vacation for the last 10 days and your agent came and put a door hanger on my door and told the whole neighborhood that I never came to my front door in the last 10 days, right? So you just gotta be aware of those types of scenarios, just learn from them, right? And then you gotta come up with what works best if you're gonna do any sort of like drop off there. Okay, John?
It's a question from Zoom.
Get back here. Next.
What percentage of people answer when your door knocks?
For me, where I live, it was 17 out of 40. Who's good with that?
17 out of 40.
Yeah.
Little under 50? Something like that.
40%.
Okay. Great job, question.
So what did you do in the scenario where you knock on the door, somebody answers, and you're like, oh, I know this person, I just didn't know they lived here.
Yeah, that's easy. You know, yeah, I was like, hey, Mike, what's up, dude? Let me, what, you're like, what, are you, I bet you're wondering what the heck I'm doing. You know, I just coded through the script kind of thing, but that's fun.
A little cup of sugar.
Yeah.
Great. That's kind of fun part about being in your neighborhood, right? It's like, it can be a fun conversation in the middle of the day that kind of goes through there.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more here and then we're gonna go into.
If they say like, hey, there's two active in our neighborhood, did you try that?
Yeah, I've shown everything that's on the market right now, just to fit my client exactly what they're looking for. It's always, yeah, I mean, it's always like, I start the script by saying, hey, I've shown them everything that's been available. You know of anybody that hasn't put their house on the market yet, that might be thinking about moving, so.
And the great thing is usually over time, there is probably, just like a lot of things, 4 or 5 objections you will hear over and over and over and over again. And once you learn the script and dialogue around that, like you can tell Matt is very, very good at his scripts. He just rolls right into it, right? And now, so there's not much he's gonna walk up and hear for the first time. Because you're gonna hear the same thing from people. No, I don't know anybody. Yeah, I do. I'm sorry, the kids are big, like me, close the door. Can you just know some names?
You got dogs, right? Everybody's.
Okay, so you're out there in the neighborhood, so that's how you started.
Yeah.
Let's talk about unique things, because I'm really big on a unique value proposition, right? There's a lot of people who can do the basics, right? And I think both of you do some very unique things about how you build that relationship, what it looks like. So maybe Joe, we'll start with you. What are some things that you do to like keep yourself involved that may not be things everyone thinks about when they think about like a farming real estate model?
And you just try to do everything and helping, you know?
Okay, so what do you mean by that?
People are gonna remember. So I started off with, doing the shred event. So I do a shred event twice a year in the pool parking lot. I thought I was gonna do that a couple times and they're gonna stop coming, but man, they just keep coming. So I do it, first weekend in October and the first weekend in May. In the pool parking lot, I bring the shred truck in. I even bring my trailer in so they can drop off electronics and TVs and computers and stuff, and I'll take those in. I get 200 cars through that in 2 hours, 3 hours.
Okay.
How do you get the word out on that?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is, you know, people go, "Oh, I never knew about, so I've got, 2 big banners that I have made up that I put on the pool fence. I have like directional signs that say shred event and the date and the time, and then my logo on the corner sponsored by. So those are spread out all over the neighborhood. And then I got the postcard going out that goes out every month. So the 1 month a year, there is no longer a market update on the back. It's the shred event. No, twice a year. For the shred event.
Now, you connected with the HOA on all that?
Well, I am the vice president of the GCA, but there is no HOA.
So you're involved though in the community association?
Yep.
Right.
So I gotta do that meeting once a month.
Complaints are coming in.
Yeah, well, I do. I mean, it's funny, people will call you, they move into Greenbrier because they love the fact there is no HOA,
Yeah.
and then they want to act like there is one, and complain about stuff.
Yeah.
So I get these phone calls, because the president doesn't ever return phone calls or return emails, so then I get phone calls. I'm like, did you call the cops? Call the county? Right, so it's all county issues, right?
Right.
But.
Okay, so shred events.
Shred event,
Yep.
and
You
then.
pay for it, find a sponsor, free to the clients, right?
Yeah,
like making
I get a
control.
little bit of help out of, my title.
Okay.
But then, I was like, man, there's something else I can do. So I don't know where I think Rick Guthrie was talking about something one time and I said, you know, I've got my truck, I got a trailer, I got my logo on the side of my truck. trying to make the sale as easy as possible for people. If you're like, what do I do with my junk? I'm like, look, anything you don't want to keep, just put it in the garage, I'll come get it, right? So when it's time, I load up my trailer, put some stuff, and then it sits on the side of my house, because I don't want to go to the dump with just a few things, I want to wait till it's full. And I'm like, I'm gonna take a picture of my truck with my logo, with my trailer halfway full, and put it on the Greenbrier Facebook page and say, hey, I'm going to the dump Saturday morning, I'm leaving at 9 AM, anybody got anything they need me to grab? So the first time I did that, I had like 7 stops. And then I had 11, I was like, man, is this all you got, you know? Then I got to 20, then I got to 30, then it got to 50, and I got to 97 stops on one Saturday. I said, tell me what you got, give me your address, put it on the curb, I'll come grab it. So now they all wait for me to go to the dump instead of just going to the dump this year, right? So finally got to the point where it's a little too much, so I put a 50 count limit on
Yeah.
it, so I'd say the first 50.
Right.
We can knock that out, so when I did 97, it was 4 loads to the dump, we started at 9 o'clock in the morning, we finished at 6 o'clock at night, no lunch, and the dump closed at 4. So the last load sits on the side of my house until Tuesday until I can get it down.
Right. Yep.
But
That's dedication.
and then I take the 3 guys that are helping me, and I take them out for drinks and dinner, so it's about a $500 day. Dude, I make that big time.
I was gonna say, I mean, think about what you invest $500 in to have
And
that many
all day.
conversations.
So I have people all the time, hey, Judy, when's your next dump run? When's your next dump run? So now they think of me as the dump guy instead of the wheelchair. And I said, the next time I can take a whole Saturday off, that's when my next dump run will be. I'll let you know.
Right. But they're looking for it.
They're
You
looking
obviously
for it.
created value,
Yeah.
right? That's the conversation I think we're all having in this industry right
And
now.
I'll drive through the neighborhood and I'll see shit on the curb. I'm like, they're waiting for me.
I mean, listen, I'm there, just thinking about my house and stuff that I got. I mean, if you knew that you had somebody in the neighborhood might be that could come down and just, hey, Saturday, I don't need to go do this thing, like, you take my screen door. So, I mean, that is a value proposition. Now all of a sudden, I'm just in my head, I'm going, gotta go with Joe. Where is he? The realtor guy. Like, that's the whole point.
So some people will call me, hey, when's your next dump run? And I'm like, I do have a couple things that I can take.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Yeah.
So I might make a couple, 3, 4 people real quick on the way to dump.
Cool.
Pick them up.
Yep.
So what's your conversion on the dump runs to listings or buyers?
That's one thing I don't do.
Yeah.
I just go help and help and help and help.
I mean, I think you just measured as like, right? Like, I think that proves it almost is. You're meeting more people, having more conversations, and if your market share is going from when you started at 15 to 25 to 30.
But you
Like, to
have the
me, that just
conversation
means.
that I'm just not the dump guy.
Yeah, so I gotta do that from time to time.
Find that balance a little bit.
Throw my little
Smart.
Throw my smart dig in there.
Sam said brand loyalty, and just providing real. I mean, how many of us right now could show a house, write a contract, take it through closing? Like majority of this room, I know almost everyone in this room,
Yeah.
right? So what is different about, like, what else are we adding to someone's life? And Joe, what I think is cool about this is, think about the life cycle of a contract, right? Joe is actually valuable to somebody for the 5 to 7 years they're not selling their house. And now they need a realtor, like, he's a name that's at least the top of the set.
I like the one that you stop by their house probably 4 times to pick up trash, and then one day you see somebody else sign it.
Right. So that happens, right? That's the other side of it.
Or you got somebody that's already got a sign in the yard and they want you to fix it.
Just take the
Uh,
trash.
My wife says, volunteer, and I'm like, you know what, you're right, I'll pick it up.
Do you have a conversation with the old homeowner when you pick up the trash?
Most of it's, they're sending me a message, like I say, just tell me what you got, your address, and then I'll usually click the like button when they're putting stuff up there. Some of them will send me a direct message through Facebook, I also put it on Nextdoor. And then when I'm doing, I get the first load loaded up and we're getting ready to go to the dump, I take a picture of it, say, first load going to the dump, I'll be back to get more. And then I come around and I keep doing that on each load. And when I'm done, at the end of the day, everybody's like, thanks, Joe, I appreciate everything you do for the neighborhood, I appreciate it, thanks, Joe.
So, the couple pictures up there, I just grabbed off of, Joe's last favorite post on his dump run. And I know you've got like frisbees and stuff, right? You just like drive by and just chuck them into people's yards.
Yeah,
and it's got-
so what I try to do is, if anybody that I pick something up, the guys are helping me throw in the back and I'm getting the frisbee out and I'm throwing in the yard and I drive away. They're like, oh, Joe was here.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. When I first met Joe, you threw a little frisbee at me, it has a logo on it, and he's like, I just
I
tossed it.
throw those by, there's 2 elementary schools in Greenbrier, so if I'm just kind of bored one day and I'm driving around, I'll get some of those and I'll throw them by the school, so when the kids are walking home.
Yep.
They'll pick up the frisbee and take it inside, it's sitting on the table, and I've
Yep.
never been there.
Cool.
You know?
Matt, how about you? What are some things that you do in that farm?
So door knocking, physical mail.
Yep.
Email, events, and social media are the 5 things. So maybe one of the more unique things would, and I don't know, if that's actually that for you, really.
Can you repeat those one more time, so I'll still write them down?
Yeah, so door knocking was the first one.
Yep.
And really the door knocking for relationships and email addresses, to be precise.
Yep.
Email marketing, 1 email a month, which is the one I was telling him I was gonna be sending once a month. Events, which is oftentimes the topic of the once a month email that I'm sending out. This is the event that's coming up in X amount of months, whatever. Social media, I'm skipping one.
I think it's social media is the last one.
So, okay, social and then social media being the, no, physical mail. I just skipped the physical mail and social media. So I would say one of the unique things that I do, anybody in here, a Facebook friend of mine? Anybody ever gotten a birthday video?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
No, you took your, no, I didn't. I don't miss it. But, so that's one thing that, like, look, there's all sorts of social media groups, right? This neighborhood's got that group and this, and I see so many people in those groups making like such rookie mistakes in terms of like developing relationship or just like blasting some real estate message, right? You know, so I'm in those groups, but I don't really do anything in those groups but friend people to my actual Facebook friends, right? Then my Facebook friends do every single day, and so it's great because like iPhone actually came out with a widget now that'll tell me I've got 5 Facebook friends today on my thing. And so, you know, every day I send a 10 or 15-second little video through Facebook Messenger directly to them to just wish them a happy birthday with their name, you know, say, hey, Mary, happy birthday, blah, blah, blah. So that's helped me actually make social media do what I wanted to do, which is foster relationships as opposed to just blasting brand on, you know, whatever, some community page. So that's a bit of a unique thing. My events are pretty standard. Movies, like I mentioned, you know, movies, family photo session, breweries, shred days. To your earlier point, my physical mail, I went a little bit. Currently, I went away from postcards. Well, I started away from postcards. I'm starting to trend towards postcards as I scale up my farm. But like it's the Morris Farm Glenkirk Estate real estate news, right? So it's very specific to them. It's got a lot of information in it. So you guys can take a look at that. I got a couple of things to look around. So just, you know, to try and be a little bit different. Everybody kind of, you know, does, you know, you guys get realtor postcards at your house. You ever seen one that's really unique or different?
No.
Like always the same, right? They're pretty much always, you know, kind of the same type of thing. So trying to figure out a way to keep door, you know, per door costs down and have it be something a little bit, you know, unique. Yeah, feel free to open it up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Once a month. Yep, that's the once a month. And so,
How much
yes,
does something like this run you
I can get that delivered at 65 cents to the door,
with mail or with postage?
to the door, whole thing done, the whole thing, 65 cents. Now, I'm printing them in Mississippi in order to keep costs low. I've got, you know, I drop them off at the Ashburn BMU or whatever, like the actual hub of the USPS, to kind of do it. I had to build that. It took me 6 months to build that system to figure out how to get it that cheap. But now I've got it up and automated. But I guess that's kind of my answer to those.
But let's talk about like movie nights, some of that's kind of cool, right? So like, we talk about shred events, movie nights, did that like blow up movie theater thing in a field somewhere in the
So
neighborhood?
no, actually, my movie event is at our local regional. So thankfully in Gainesville, about 5 years ago, we got a movie theater. And so I have the email lists that I'm getting from door knocking and from other people who, you know, maybe I interact with at the park. And I'm like, hey, you know, I'd love to invite you to our events. I don't know if I've ever seen you there, and get an email. I'm always getting email addresses as much as possible.
Yep.
So to come to my events, this is a little different. You got to be on my email list. Like that's the hook to get the email addresses, right? I'm changing that a little bit now and actually using the events to get some email addresses. But initially I'm like, dude, I'm knocking on these doors, I'm getting your email. I promise you I was gonna invite you to these events. But my movie event was supposed to be at Regal, the actual Regal. They started charging $10,000 to set up in their freaking lobby, like, nope. So now I'm directly across the street at the Bar Louie. And I set up, I got a good relationship with the manager at the Bar Louie. I open up a tab, I tell everybody you can come. I'll be buying, you know, drinks and appetizers for you guys to enjoy. Plus, I'm going to be giving out movie tickets to walk right across the street to the Gainesville Regal to check out any movie playing that you want to see. And you want to see, I tell them that it's like tonight.
Yep.
Because otherwise, if you say you can use it anytime, it just becomes like a movie theater drive-by, pick up your tickets and leave. I'm like, no, dude, come hang out with me, right? So, but you can actually use them anytime, kind of thing. So it's pretty.
Yeah, instead of picking up the event, you're just buying the tickets, flying them out, and saying like, we're all going to movie together.
Yeah, and I have a lender that buys concessions, like little gift cards, and this is all pre-ordered on the website, so it's a lot cheaper, by like 35% cheaper than what you're paying if you're actually swiping your card over at the deal.
So Matt, is this
Yeah.
for your geo farming or is this a client appreciation event, or how do you decide between the two? Because I like to do a lot of client appreciation, but I don't want to open it up too much to the farm, right? You know what I'm saying?
So yes, and what I've historically done is I've done 2 movie events.
Okay.
My March is for my sphere of influence and my July is for the farm. As I've just kind of gone more and more into farming, and this is going to be, I'm gonna just stay in this lane. I'm starting to bring my sphere of influence, and there's a lot of overlap. I mean, there just
Okay.
becomes a ton of overlap, right? When you sell them in your house at a geographic farm,
Right.
your past clients are your sphere that are in the, you know what I mean? Like, this gets a bit muddled, obviously, after a while. But so I am trending now more towards, I'm doing one, and I'm bringing in the farm and my friends, and we're all gonna kind of hang out together. But I did have them separate for that same purpose for a while, because I was
Yeah.
like, the messaging is a little different, right? Like, so.
I think some of the other events come to my mind that, I've heard people do, there's a common area in the neighborhood and they buy a bunch of pumpkins and everyone takes one home and everyone comes back and there's a pumpkin carving contest sponsored by the team. We give out a gift card, right? We're gonna sponsor the food truck for the monthly get together, right? Stuff like that. I mean, there's little things that you can potentially do. Another one, and this is maybe where we can go next a little bit, is like weaving sponsors and other business people together, right? To kind of add value for you. Because like they're out in the neighborhood going, I want to cut grass. 1,900 homes. Matt, you have everyone's email address. You have a newsletter. You guys do that at all? Do you work together with other vendors, or what are some opportunities there that you might see?
Well, we have quite a few business owners in Greenbrier.
Yep.
That do landscaping and everything else. So, we try to keep it in the family as much as we can, but that's one of the other things we're talking about with the social media was, I've got ping on my phone, so anytime somebody's on Greenbrier Facebook page or the next door page, I see it. A lot of times they're looking for particular contractors. I try to be one of the ones making a recommendation, or somebody's having an issue with a water line pipe busting under slab, say, hey, I'd love to come by and take a look, give you my advice.
Yeah.
Something just constant. Someone says, hey, I got a free fridge I want to give away. One of the other neighbors says, hey, I'll take it, but I have no way of getting it there. Say, hey, I can come get it for you.
Right.
Get in my truck, I go throw it on my truck, I drive it over to the house, drop it off.
Listen, like,
Just stuff like that all day long. You're just searching the Greenbrier Facebook page. So, oh, there's an opportunity to help somebody.
Right.
You know?
think about like usually like somebody just said a bug guy a little while ago. And I had a bug guy come to my front door yesterday. Right? First time in a while, I had some door knock on my door. And he got me, I was sitting there talking to him for a few minutes, right? I didn't pay for it. And there's a lot of people like that. Everyone's in the business of lead gen, right? So there's somebody that's in the neighborhood that's cutting grass, right? And they're gonna offer a bulk discount because they're already in the neighborhood. Can I just go to Joe and say like, hey Joe, can I put that on my newsletter? And tell everybody like that's part of my newsletter, you get $30 off your lawn this summer if you book and give them Gotta Go Joe. That guy would say yes every single time, right? Because he's giving those coupons out in other places, window washers, like there's ways you can go find other business owners and say, how do we partner? One of the great ones was, I knew an agent, there was like vacant lots, just like around the neighborhood that they weren't built on or whatever. And they partnered with a landscaper and they like just cut the grass there, like kept those areas nice and clean for kids to go play soccer or go use that space rather than be this big overgrown like area essentially. So it's all different, but just keep in mind, like we're all business owners. How can you even strengthen your vendor relationships and offer more value to your clients, right? That makes sense? All right, so 123. Hopefully you've learned some good things there. Want to reserve some time because I know you guys are all thinking of some different questions. What do you got? What are some questions you guys have? We can go over for the next like 5 to 6 minutes. So any questions on the strategy? I mean, they're giving you everything they got. So this is a moment where you got anything you're thinking of. How do you do this? What does that cost? It's pretty much been open book so far.
Like monthly cost overall, your budget for like a year or a month.
My business, now this is not just geographic farming, this is like everything. Right now, we run at about a $8,000 to $11,000 a month clip for everything. I close my books every single month. 8 to 11,000. That's a team of 5 of us. That's MLS dues. That's NVAR. I mean, like that's everything.
It costs to run your business.
What it costs, yeah, but that is expenses, not cost of sale stuff. But that's 5 agents. We did like $40-ish million in sales last year for about 1.2, 1.3 in GCI, and, you know, running it at 8 to 11 a month.
Something I didn't want to hit on really fast, because both of you do this. One advantage of farming a neighborhood, building relationships. Not everything is ready for the open market. Not everybody wants to go to the open market. Do either of you buy houses in your neighborhood? What does that look like?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Yeah, so you buy and hold in your neighborhood.
I've lived in 3 homes in my neighborhood.
Wow.
So I've moved in 2013. I'm in a townhouse. This was my first one where I was, didn't have any rent. And then I moved into another house in 2016, shortly after I started geographic farming. That was a short sale I was listing. I ended up buying it. And then I moved in 2020 into the house that I currently live in. So 2 of those are still rental properties that I just moved out of, and I've kept rental properties. And I purchased another property from a client in the house. So I have 4 houses in the same neighborhood, and 3 of them are long-term rentals.
Yep. Pretty easy to manage your rentals that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's right down the street, you've got an eye on it, and you know it's worth, right? Joe, same thing.
Yeah, I flipped
You and I have talked about this.
Greenbrier in 2018. And then I flipped one in Centerville from a girl that I knew in Greenbrier, but I ended up keeping that one, so I did a burr on that one, if anybody knows what a burr is, so. And then buy, renovate.
Refinance. Rent.
So that one, I paid $280 for it, put 65,000 in it, I had to put 60 down, so now I'm 125 into it. And I stepped back and looked at it and went, you know what, I should probably keep this one, it's a great little rental property, little Rambler in Centerville. So I said, I wonder what it appraised for, probably 4 1/4, right? Appraiser came in at 475, 75% cash out, refi, got a check for 125 at the table, so 3 houses.
Right.
Wow.
2020, I did a flip in Greenbrier, made 85 grand on that. And then 2021, I did a flip in Greenbrier, made $125 on that one. And then the neighbor behind the house I had in Centerville wanted to get rid of his house. I tried to get him to put it on the market. I went over there 4 times. Dude, just put it on the market. Market's high. I just want to get out of here. So finally, I just made him an offer, said, I'll take it.
I remember you calling me and being like,
Yeah.
what else do I do? I'm trying to list this guy's house, I'm not gonna buy it.
Said paint, carpet, fix the broken window, put it back on the market, make 26 grand.
I guess what I'm saying though is like when you know the neighbor as well as you guys both do, the risk is lower, right? If someone calls, you have an idea what those numbers already are because you're selling in that area. So,
Yeah.
cool.
But there's immediate trust too, when you
Sure.
know the neighborhood and then you go in there and you know exactly the numbers and know what you're talking about, they're like, they get it right away, like, oh,
Well, I run
this is somebody
into-
in a different neighborhood.
50-plus-year-old houses in my neighborhood, there's a lot of original owners, we
Yeah.
have a lot of estate sales. Kids inherited the house is in terrible shape, and I said, look, I've learned my lesson, I'm gonna make an offer as an option.
Right.
You're gonna make more money to put on MLS, I'll help you with that, I can help you renovate it, whatever you wanna do, or I'll give you a number and be done in a week if you want it. And every once in a while, someone says, you know what, you can have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? What are you guys thinking about? Questions you have for these 2 guys? All right, let's go Rachel and Pina. Go ahead.
Sorry. What were you spending when you started?
Yeah.
Like what you're spending now, like
Yeah.
not there yet?
My first budgets were typically in the like 2 to 3K a month, me and my wife being the only 2, and that's everything still, like, I'm not, like, my physical mail, I get that to 1,234 homes for $835, right? So that's that kind of 65 cents, you know, to the door. So like, I can break it down a little bit, but like, you know, 2 to 3K, it grew because things were, you know, working and, you know, had added some agents and things like that. So you can do it for.
Maybe if you had like an area of 500 house, maybe when you're first starting out, right? I mean,
Like I said,
you can have a budget, whatever your budget is $500, and then what can I do with that? There might be mailers, but then I'm with you, like hitting the streets, trying to get out there and talk to people, especially if it's an area you live.
it's a
You know,
combination.
Your time's worth something.
The first, when I was doing just the main drags, I think I was spending like $600 or something.
Yeah.
Now I'm hitting, in order to hit 1,900 homes using the EDDM, I'm actually hitting 3,500 properties, and 2 of them are apartment complexes.
You said that analogy, EDD, what is that?
Every door direct mail.
Okay, is that a
It's just to
company?
Keep us posted, going through the postal service.
Every day direct mail.
Every door direct mail.
Compared to command, using the postcard feature on command.
Well, you're paying postage and you gotta put in, like, the I don't have to put an address, I'm just putting.
Right.
Command postcards 59 cents,
Right, right.
not as large, right? That's for like the 4x6, the classic one. You can, you know, you can't do them,
Right.
right? Some of it though is speed sometimes, right? Like maybe it doesn't matter if it's a monthly newsletter. But like the command system takes 9 or 10 days to get through, right? So you just gotta look at all those different options, which one fits the mold. of what
And I
you're
have a
trying to do.
little more control now. I can take addresses off.
Yep.
That I don't want like the other realtors in the neighborhood or somebody's calls, if I want off your address, so.
Email and then gift.
I'm spending $1,100 a month for 3,500.
1100. All right, Keno.
Have any of you guys gone to like any small businesses to get them to partner with you? And what types of small businesses have you seen best, most willing partner?
I get tired of trying to chase people down for their part of the payment. I'm just like, screw it, I got it.
Okay.
I haven't either, but for the most part, it's because I want to control the messaging. It's really important to me to kind of control that.
Oh, I need to run it by our boss because I need to make sure you got this,
Yeah.
and this on the way.
And
I got it.
I do, you know, how many people have had different contractors over just their own real estate time or different
Yeah.
loan officers or whatever that are like changing and like, why did that change? Because I found somebody better and, you know, I put this message out and all of a sudden they drop the ball, like, and it comes back on me.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm more likely to go to my lender, my title company, people that like, I know I'm gonna be in business for long term and see if there's a relationship. But I'll give free to other business owners. So you have this, because I'm not like affiliated 100%. I'm just shining some light on you as a good, you know, deed. And then cool, like you failed, all right, I just, you know what I'm saying?
So question back, this one is all your listing, right? And so
The inside, those are my listings with the photos.
with the photo.
Those are not all listed. You know, those could have been over the last 3 to 4 months. The back is just what.
Yeah, the reason I asked.
Yeah.
I tried to. And I didn't sell part of this listing, it's like, this is just sold.
Yeah.
And then I got compliant and say that you're not even a buyer agent or listing agent.
Doesn't matter. You can, anything that's public record.
Yeah.
You can promote. So you could say, just like they have on these sheets here. 123 Main Street, 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 1,900 square feet, sold price, sold date. Everyone in this room can go put that information on. What you can't do is go on, take the MLS photo and make your graphic look a little nicer
Right,
because you don't have permission to use that photo. So where he has it as a one-liner like
I
that,
didn't.
that's allowed.
I just used the summary.
Yeah. You might have, you have people that are jealous, they go, I didn't think of this. So they can make complaints, doesn't mean that that's wrong, but you can do that, you are allowed to do that. All right, Sam, Jen, we're at Bishop. Sorry, Sam, go ahead.
What are, you know, throughout your journey, what are some of the failures or I guess I'd rather call lessons that you guys have learned that we could kind of learn from? Guys,
I will say. I don't know if this is gonna answer your question, right, Samber, but one of the things that we didn't mention that kind of, you know, I think would be important to say, and hopefully this is kind of answering your question in reverse a little bit, is consistency. Like, if you know that you're not going to be able to kind of like be consistent, this is probably not the best approach. Now, granted, I don't know what approach it is, that's if you're not gonna be consistent, but like, you know, this is very much a consistency game. So lessons that I've learned is when I've lacked consistency, it's hurt me, right?
You can't let it, gotta keep the game going. You gotta keep it going. Like my postcards every month, like I'm trying to get them the same time every month. And it's, oh, I gotta think of the next postcard, you know, it's like stressing over it. I'm trying to make sure that it's going out at the same time every time. The good thing and the bad thing about those market updates is some people think those are all your listings. But the bad thing is if there's some cheap ones in there, they also think those are your listings, sold cheap, right?
It's all part of the strategy. Yeah, there's the pros and the cons, probably like anything else. All right, wraps up.
So I was just gonna say, in terms of using other photos.
Yep.
Especially if it's an agent in my market center, I'll call them like, hey, you sold something, you know, I like to farm in this neighborhood, can I borrow your picture and I'll give you credit for it?
Yeah.
You know, and I'll post it on Facebook, like if there's a unique property that's like a main level master in the neighborhood, I'm like, hey, Pete, neighborhood peeps, this property is available, let me know if you wanna see it, my friend is listing it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So as long as you're giving them credit for the
Absolutely.
photo, absolutely.
Yeah, then you can do it that way. Good. You're good.
So how long time frame you for the new realtor, if you geopark, how long is it gonna take? According to you?
According to you, it's a year to year and a half. minimum.
Yeah, my first year, I got 1 listing. My second year, I got 4. All in this geographic area. My third year, I got 5. My fourth year, I got 4. So you need to have other business that you're gonna be doing as well, in my opinion, kind of like geographic farming is a little bit of a luxury for somebody who's built somewhat of a sphere of influence business, right? I don't know, I'm sure maybe you could just work so hard in geographic farming that you could kind of get a faster turn, but I felt like I was working pretty darn hard and it took a while. Now, the good news is, to the point, like, if you're willing to overcome that struggle, I can't even tell you how many times I came back from door knocking, sweating, and I would walk back in and my wife works from home and she was like, this is gonna work. Right? Like I was in for like years. I'm like, hey, nobody can give more. Nobody can do more. Nobody's gonna serve more. Nobody's gonna love more. It has to work. But the flip side of that, once you kind of get a little bit of that momentum, and for me, it took a while. But when you go to the like people do just call you, like, just come list my house. I'm like, oh my God, I mean, that's like man from heaven. It's crazy.
Walking in my underwear and my hand is key.
Yeah.
It's like, it's crazy.
You not been on the phone on a Saturday, you're like, I just came to, this guy wants me to come sign a listener agreement, like, I'm wearing my shorts, like, he doesn't care, he wants me to come.
Yeah.
Once you get to that point where you
Yeah.
start knowing everybody.
Yep.
Like he's mad with collecting emails and stuff like that. I'm terrible with that. I'm just out there nurturing, building relationships, and my phone rings. And I've talked to a lot of people a year or 2 years before they list their house. Hey, can you tell me when they need you to get ready? It's 50-year-old houses. And I walk through and say, hey, look, I'm just gonna tell you what I would do if it was my house. This is what I do for a living every day. You don't have to agree, but I'm just trying to help you make some money. And they got this list, and next thing you know, hey, can you help me? And now I got my contractor over there. I'm already doing the work. Have I been burned before? A couple times, but not very often.
Yeah.
And
One last for Joe. So if you are part of HOA or association, it's a leverage for realtor to be more involved.
oh yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we were talking about some more events. And the reason it's hard for me to do some of the events is because we have 2 elementary schools and the high school's right there. So they have their own events. What do? I get involved in them too.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Greenbrier East has a fall festival. I did the photo booth for them, had the hay and the pumpkins and all that. And then Greenbrier East, Greenbrier West, PTA is always reaching out for the money for there. So I go to the restaurants and buy cards, gift cards, and take them, and they can do the silent auction kind of thing. I'm just constantly. Now, I did have to change my shred event from the biannual Greenbrier shred event to the Gotta Go with Joe shred event, because they kind of thought the GCA was holding it on, because they get on the Facebook page and go, hey, what's the next shred event? I'm like, why don't you call me? I'm the one that puts it on.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of change that to kind of make sure they knew it was me
Right.
that was putting it on.
So it's all that brand stuff.
Yeah.
Quick plug here real fast. So Jen, you guys were here a couple months ago. We did the first class here, which was all on events, right? Next Thursday, so the 27th over at Loudon Gateway, they're gonna teach part 2, and they're gonna be going into like command and teaching like how they throw events, which is a lot of the stuff we're talking about here today. Okay, so I just want to throw it out there. Next Thursday, we're gonna go to Loudon Gateway. We're gonna have another awesome class that Jen and Jen over there are gonna lead as well. Okay, Matt, Joe, thank you guys very much. Give them a round of applause here.
Want to get a good picture in the living room, so if you wanted to do the picture.
Okay.
Just come out there.
Sounds good. All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for being here today. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good job, man.
Yeah.